When a government is dependent upon bankers for money, they and not the leaders of the government control the situation, since the hand that gives is above the hand that takes. Monetary systems have been at the heart of wars and battles for centuries, from ancient times to the present day. The control and manipulation of currency, credit, and financial markets have often been the underlying motivations for nations to engage in conflict, as well as the means by which they sustain themselves during times of war. Throughout history, monetary systems have been used as weapons, tools of diplomacy, and instruments of power by those in positions of authority. The ancient empires of Greece and Rome regularly debased their currencies by reducing the precious metal content of their coins, thereby reducing their value and making them easier to produce. During the Middle Ages, rulers and monarchs engaged in currency manipulation by clipping coins, a process that involved cutting small amounts of precious metal from the edges of coins in circulation and melting them down to produce new coins. This allowed the monarchs to create new currency without having to mine new precious metals, thereby inflating their currencies and creating inflation. In the modern era, the manipulation of monetary systems has become more sophisticated, with the development of central banking and fiat currencies. The establishment of central banks, such as the Bank of England and the Federal Reserve, has given governments the power to control interest rates, regulate financial markets, and create new money out of thin air. This has led to a new form of monetary welfare, as countries engage in currency wars, trade wars, and economic sanctions to protect their national interests. The history of monetary systems is a story of power, politics, and conflict. The late 18th century was no exception. France was in the grips of an economic crisis that threatened to tear the country apart. Bankers, kings, and secret societies, such as the Freemasons and Illuminati, vied for control over the nation's finances, leading to corruption, chaos, and struggle. In the midst of this turmoil, a young general rose to power, determined to restore order and establish a new era of prosperity. His name was Napoleon Bonaparte, and his battles with the forces of finance would shape the course of history. This is the story of Napoleon versus the banks. Chapter 1: America's battle with the banks and the rise of Napoleon. A monetary system is a way of managing a country's currency and money supply. There are several types of monetary systems, including commodity money, fiat money, and representative money. Each system has its strengths and weaknesses, and its success should be measured by how well it serves the needs of the people it is intended to serve. With any monetary system, The ability to lend or loan money is a fundamental component, as it allows for the flow of capital and facilitates economic activity. Lending allows individuals and businesses to finance investments, purchases, and other economic activities. But should the lender be allowed to charge interest? This question has been a centuries-long and still ongoing debate. The practice of usury, or charging excessive interest rates on loans, has a long history and was reported as far back as ancient civilizations such as Mesopotamia and Babylon. The Code of Hammurabi, one of the earliest known legal codes dating back to around 1754 BCE, regulated the maximum interest rates that could be charged on loans. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, usury was considered a sin and was prohibited. Historically, the common people have benefited from no-interest lending systems. For example, in some early societies, such as medieval Islamic societies and some Native American communities, loans were often made on a charitable basis with no interest charged. These systems were designed to provide support to those in need, rather than to generate profits for lenders. During the early 18th century, a revolutionary monetary system with these values of no interest on loans took rise. It was a largely decentralized system called colonial script. Colonial script was a paper money, fiat currency, that the colonial government printed and gave to people to use in exchange for their goods and services. There was no centralized bank, and the colonial script monetary system was not backed by any physical assets like gold or silver. Rather, it was simply backed by the trust and confidence placed in the local government and the community that issued it. The government in each colony was responsible for issuing and regulating the colonial script and preventing counterfeiting. The government also acted as a lender of last resort, providing loans to individuals or businesses in times of economic hardship or crisis. Additionally, the government could enforce penalties for those who refused to accept colonial script as payment for debts, thus ensuring its circulation and value within the local economy. Benjamin Franklin, one of the founding fathers of the United States, wrote about the matter. He said, "In the colonies, we issue our own paper money. We call it colonial script, and we issue enough to move all goods easily from producers to consumers. By creating our own paper money, we control our purchasing power, and we have no interest in paying anyone." A largely decentralized system where no interest is charged? This may sound like a great idea to most common people, but on another continent, a group of European bankers and royals likely turned red with rage when the news spread about the success and rapid growth of the colonial script system. King George II and his government were furious by the colony's use of colonial script instead of British currency. The use of colonial script undermined the British government's control over the colony's monetary system and their ability to collect taxes in British currency. Additionally, the British government feared that the use of colonial script would lead to inflation and devalue the British currency. But because of this, British Parliament passed the Currency Act of 1751. This